Hey, what's up guys? Will here for GSM Arena. These days, smartphone manufacturers are really ramping up their production. Just a few months after we saw Oppo's Reno4 Pro, we now have the Reno4 Pro. What's new this time around? Let's find out in our full review. The Oppo Reno4 Pro has a smooth-looking mid-range design of matte plastic. Ours is in the starry night color scheme, and the subtle gradient is rather elegant. The finish is a bit gritty to the touch, and lends some extra grip. At about 160 grams, this is one of the lightest phones we've held in a while, maybe due to the polycarbonate build, and one-handed use is a breeze. And as we've seen before on Oppo phones, the power button has a snazzy green accent on it. The Reno4 Pro's display is a 6.5-inch Super AMOLED with a 1080p resolution. It's not often that you see a curved display on a mid-ranger, but you get one here. Plus, it has a fast 90Hz refresh rate and responsive 180Hz touch sampling rate to boot. Overall, this is a really nice screen for this price range. It has the great contrast you'd expect from an AMOLED and vivid colors. You can make them reasonably accurate too, after tweaking a few settings. The 90Hz refresh rate makes moving objects look smoother, and is adaptive, only remaining at the high rate for the UI and supported content. And finally, max brightness is excellent here, up to around 500 nits with a slider, and up to 840 nits in auto mode when out in bright sun. The Reno4 Pro's fingerprint reader is located under the display. If you hit the right spot, it's super fast, accurate, and responsive to wake up and unlock the phone. The audio experience on the Reno4 Pro is alright. The phone has a single bottom-firing loudspeaker, and it placed an average score in our loudness test. Quality-wise, it's pretty average as well. There's also a regular 3.5mm headphone jack down at the bottom, and the phone supports FM radio if you have headphones plugged in. You'll have plenty of space for all the content you want. There are options for 128 or 256 gigs of storage, and that is expandable through the triple card slot. The phone's OS is the newest version of Oppo's Color OS on top of Android 10. It's a smooth interface, with some proprietary features, such as the Photos, Music and Video apps, File Manager, and other tools. You can choose to have all of your apps on the home screen, or to store them in an app drawer. Swiping from the side of the screen opens up a smart sidebar, which can hold various customizable shortcuts. While there isn't a notification LED on the Reno4 Pro, there is an always-on display, as well as edge lighting, where the edge of the display glows to remind you to check your phone. Under the hood is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G chipset. It does offer good performance for a mid-ranger, though it does fall a bit behind the upper mid-range Snapdragon 765G. The 720G doesn't support 5G network speeds like the higher-tier chipset can, and posts lower scores, both CPU and GPU-wise. You can get perfectly adequate performance on the Reno4 Pro, even when gaming, but this isn't the most powerful device you can get for the money. The Reno4 Pro has a 4000 mAh battery, pretty much an average size these days. However, battery life is quite good. With the display set to 90Hz, the phone scored an endurance rating of 96 hours in our battery life tests. On top of that, one of the standout features of the Reno4 Pro is its lightning-fast charging. It comes with a massive 65-watt SuperVOOC 2.0 charger in the box. This is able to deliver one of the fastest charging speeds we've measured, taking the phone from an empty battery to 100% charge in about half an hour. Moving on to the phone's cameras. There are 4 on the back, a 48-megapixel quad-Bayer main cam, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide-angle cam, a 2-megapixel macro cam, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor which Oppo markets as a black and white camera used for various color effects. Photos from the main camera come out in 12 megapixels, and in daylight these are really nice. There's good sharpness and detail, balanced colors, and natural rendition of textures like foliage. Dynamic range is fairly wide too. We did notice some visible noise though, but it's acceptable. Like with other quad-Bayer cameras, you can shoot in the full resolution at 48 megapixels. This doesn't necessarily grant you more detail, though you can achieve this sometimes in the right situation. There is more noise in this mode though. Portraits are taken with the main camera, and these are good. Subject isolation is competent, with minimal glitches along the edges, except for messy hair, but that's to be expected. There is no telephoto cam on the Reno4 Pro, but the 2x digital zoom from the main cam is decent, producing some usable results. The ultra-wide-angle cam's photos aren't on the same level quality-wise as the main camera. The color reproduction is off, especially with the blues, and dynamic range is more narrow. These aren't bad though, the detail level is quite nice for 8 megapixels. Close-up shots taken with the macro camera are unimpressive. Don't expect a lot of detail at 2 megapixel resolution. Plus there's a lot of noise, narrow dynamic range, and washed out colors. Focus is fixed too, so getting a sharp image takes some trial and error. In low light, the Reno4 Pro's main cam produces decent images for its class. They are noisy, but there's good enough detail and color saturation. Dynamic range is fairly wide as well. We would prefer a brighter exposure though. You do have night mode to brighten up the shadows for you, and highlights are better developed as well. The results are solid, though you do lose out on some fine detail in the process. The ultra-wide cam doesn't do very well in the dark. You get underexposed photos with narrow dynamic range. Night mode does help a lot though, improving both the exposure and dynamic range, though it adds a lot of sharpening too. For selfies, the Reno4 Pro is equipped with a 32 megapixel quad Bayer front-facing cam. The shots come out in 32 megapixels, and these are nice with plenty of detail. Just watch out for challenging lighting. HDR seemed to be a bit unreliable, resulting in some clipped highlights. Videos can be recorded with the main camera in up to 4K at 30 FPS. The quality is okay, with fairly wide dynamic range and conservative processing. The ultra-wide-angle cam's footage comes out in 1080p, and you get decent detail. The dynamic range is narrow though. Electronic stabilization is always on for the main cam in all modes. It does an excellent job in smoothing out walking-induced shake and panning. However, there's no stabilization available for the ultra-wide-angle cam, and this footage comes out shaky. You do get the Ultra Steady Pro mode, which fixes that, but you can see some glitches here and there. Finally, Oppo claims the fourth camera is used to create a variety of color filters you can use when recording videos. But we think these are software generated, as covering the camera with a finger made no difference. Still, the effects look cool. So that's the Oppo Reno4 Pro. You get a light and elegant looking build, a curved high refresh rate AMOLED screen, a decent chipset, a pretty good primary camera, great battery life, and some of the fastest charging around. Plus you get features that many phones are skipping over these days, a headphone jack and expandable storage. Now there are some downsides worth mentioning though. First is the chipset. A 720G is a decent chip, but you could get a faster one if you shop around. Also, the monochrome camera is neat, but it feels more like a gimmick than a fully functional camera. The macro cam isn't great either, and we definitely would have preferred having a telephoto zoom. But still, the Reno4 Pro is a solid mid-ranger that clearly offers something unique with its combination of a curved AMOLED and fast charging. If these are features you're interested in, and heavy gaming isn't a priority, then the Reno4 Pro is definitely worth recommending. Thanks for watching guys, stay safe and see you on the next one.